Today we'll talk about the alphabet that we use in Russian language. In fact, it is Cyrillic alphabet that is used not only in Russian language, but in other languages as well. In total, Russian alphabet has 33 letters. Our major interest is not only how the letters are written, but also how do we pronounce each of them. At this point of time, especially phonetics will be a key to map Cyrillic letters and Latin letters. Please have a look at the screen. Here you can see letters in two forms, capital letter and small letter. Also, you see transcriptions and some words. These words are not always truly Russian, they are just written with Cyrillic letters. Most of these words are well known all over the world, so I think you can easily recognize them based on my pronunciation. Feel free to repeat with me. Let's start. A. Ankara. Ankara. Capital of Turkey. B. Berlin. Berlin. V. Vienna. Vienna. G. Grodno. Grodno. That's the city in Belarus. D. Dresden. Dresden. Ye. Ye. Yerevan. Yerevan. Yo. Köln. Köln. Ж. Женева. Женева. З. Загреб. Загреб. И. Иран. Иран. Й. Йемен. Йемен. К. Катар. Катар. Л. Лондон. Лондон. М. Москва. Москва. Н. Ницца. Ницца. О. Осло. Осло. П. Прага. Прага. Р. Рим. Рим. С. Сидней. Сидней. Т. Токио. Токио. У. Украина. Украина. Ф. Франкфурт. Франкфурт. Х. Хельсинки. Хельсинки. Ц. Цюрих. Цюрих. Ч. Чикаго. Чикаго. Ш. Шанхай. Шанхай. Letter Sh. This is the only one when I will give you not geographical name but name of soup. I believe that if you are interested in Russian language, then you definitely heard this word before. If not, here it is. Sh. Борщ. Борщ. Then there are two letters that don't have special separate sound, but their functions are to keep previous consonant hard or soft accordingly. That's why these letters have their names, hard sign and soft sign. Hard sign doesn't have any separate sound, but soft sign makes the previous L softer in word Bruxelles. Bruxelles. What is Bruxelles? Brussels. Letter I. Крым. Крым. Letter E. Edinburgh. Edinburgh. U. Юрмала. Юрмала. Я. Yalta. Yalta. Later we'll talk more about consonants and vowels. We'll group some of them in pairs to make it easier to remember all of them, and specifically we'll see that vowels make pronunciation of previous consonant hard or soft. Finally, there is a small self-check exercise for you. Please have a look at the screen, choose the best option, and find correct answers in the comments. As you remember, Russian language is built on Cyrillic alphabet, and this alphabet has 33 letters in total. 21 of them are consonants, 10 are vowels, and 2 more symbols that have no separate sound at all. Now let's talk about vowels. Just as a reminder, vowels are those letters that we can sing. Please have a look at the screen. These are 10 vowels that we have in Russian in that order how they are in the alphabet. But since we are learning Russian through English, we can make a comparison of vowels in these two languages and regroup these vowels a little bit to have some special logic. You may see that every pair in Russian letters has something in common in the way we pronounce them. Often, it's like we add extra sound y in the beginning, right? I would strongly recommend you remember these pairs because this idea is one of the fundamental things in understanding how Russian words sound. Now let's look at the same letters when they are part of the word. A, ya, mama, meow, mama, meow. In this example, when we pronounce mama, we keep M hard, but when we pronounce meow, we make letter M softer, and this is exactly because of ya that goes after M. Try it once again. Mama, meow. Mama, meow. Same thing you can see in other examples with another pair of vowels. Ye. Sem, секунда. Sem, секунда. И. Ты, тигр. Ты, тигр. Ё. Мода, мед. Мода, мед. Ю. Тур, тюльпан. Тур, тюльпан. You can see that pairs of vowels create soft and hard forms of consonants that stand in front of the vowel. Does it mean that we have now twice more consonants in the alphabet? No, letters stay the same, but the way we pronounce them may slightly change. Finally, there is a small self-check exercise for you. Please have a look on the screen, choose the best option, and find correct answers in the comments. Once you've learned the first words in Russian, you can immediately try to build small sentences and make simple communication schemes. Please look at the screen. For example, you can practice question intonation and choose pairs of words that you already know. Дантист – это доктор? And your positive reply – Да, дантист – это доктор. Джаз – это паста? And your negative reply – Нет, джаз – это не паста. Don't forget that you need to disagree with the initial question twice, with first «нет» and with second «не». And what if there are two options provided with union «или» between them? Рок – это паспорт или музыка? Your correct answer will be рок – это музыка, because you choose one of two options provided and because union «или» has meaning «or» in English. And to make this practice even more creative, you can build the following dialects. Please look at the screen. Футбол – это танец? Нет, футбол – это не танец. А что это? Футбол – это не танец, а спорт. You see that this simple dialect becomes twice longer and use another construction that in English can be translated as not something but something else. In Russian, не а. Let's build one more example like this. Журналист – это текст? Нет, журналист – это не текст. А кто это? Журналист – это не текст, а профессия. You see that in this dialect I had to use question word кто instead of question word что in previous example. Why do I do this? I do this because journalist is a live person. Russian language grammar is built on several major fundamental concepts. And one of these concepts is concept of cases. it is the most scary part when foreigners start learning Russian, but when you understand an idea of these cases, education becomes much easier. Have a look at the screen. A woman on the shore is writing a letter with a pen to a friend from Moscow. Женщина на берегу пишет письмо ручкой другу из Москвы. Here I have tried to create a sentence that has all 6 cases. Do you see these cases when the sentence is provided in English? But actually, they are all here. Let's define the role of every word in this sentence and map those roles to cases. Женщина. This is a woman. This word plays the role of a subject. That's why it is in nominative case. На берегу. On the shore. This is what? This is current location. That's why this word is in prepositional case. Initial form of word is берег. Пишет. Is writing. This is an action. That's why we don't apply cases here, because it is a verb. Письмо. A letter. This is what? This is an object. That's why it is in so-called accusative case. Initial form of this word is письмо. Ручкой. With a pen. Ручка is a pen. Initial form of this word is ручка. But in this sentence, it plays the role of an instrument. That's why it is in so-called instrumental case. Другу. To a friend. Initial form of this word is друг. And this word plays in the sentence role of a recipient. That's why this word is in dative case. Из Москвы. From Moscow. This is what? This is initial location of that friend. Initial form of the word is Москва. But in this sentence, this word is in genitive case. Each case has its own set of rules defining what do we need to do with word to let it play concrete role in the sentence. And this is why we are actually extremely flexible in Russian language with order of words in the sentence. Since form of the word usually clearly says what is its function, then it doesn't really matter where this team member is exactly sitting in the room, if you get this comparison. Of course, there are some preferred ways, but usually it's full of freedom. Please look at the screen. This simple phrase can be pronounced using various order of words. We know this phrase. I love you in Russian. Я тебя люблю тебя, тебя я люблю я тебя. You see that we are changing the order of words, but the meaning in fact stays the same. All of the sentences are grammatically correct because we have clearly defined subject, form of the verb, and object. Try to say this phrase in different ways to a person you really love. And please find more examples in the comments. Now let's talk about personal pronouns. All our phrases and sentences usually have some object that we describe. If we don't want to repeat name of an object all the times in every sentence, we replace it with personal pronoun. Please have a look at the screen. These are personal pronouns in their initial forms. You may see that we can easily map all pronouns in Russian with pronouns in English. Let's read them. Я, ты, мы, вы, он, она, оно, они. You can see that we have singular pronouns and plural pronouns. Kind of special is pronoun вы that we use when we address a group of people that is next to us or when we address one person with a big respect. Please look at the example. Very simple dialogue when someone is knocking at your door. Кто там? Это я. Кто там? Это я. But when there is a group of people, кто там? Это мы. Кто там? Это мы. Let's imagine that you want to check who is that particular person standing at your door and you have some ideas. Это Шелдон? Да, это он. это Шелдон? Да, это он. Finally, there is a small self-check exercise for you. Please have a look at the screen, choose the best option, and find correct answers in the comments. Now we will build simple phrases when we already have two persons involved. For example, he knows her. Please look at the screen. You may see that in English we don't say he knows she. No, instead we use form of pronoun she that tells who is really exactly doing an action. He plus to know plus she. He knows her. Он знает ее. In another example, he plus to know plus you. He knows you. Он знает тебя. Same thing we do in Russian, but we create another form for all personal pronouns. Have a look at the screen. You see the table where every personal pronoun has its form when a word needs to play a role of an object in this sentence. This is so-called accusative case for personal pronouns. Let's read all of them. Меня, тебя, его, ее, нас, вас, их. With this table, you can build simple sentences when the subject, on, is fixed. And of course, you can add other verbs to similar construction. Please look at the screen. Знает, понимает, спрашивает, слушает. Knows, understands, asks, listens. If we want to ask a question to subject, we say «Кто знает меня?» Who knows me? But if we want to ask a question to an object, whom does he know? We need to say «Кого он знает?» Кого он знает? This shows that question words also change according to the role of a word in the sentence. Finally, there is a small self-check exercise for you. Please have a look at the screen, choose the best option, and find correct answers in the comments. Now we'll talk about gender of nouns. We all know what is gender, and for Russian language, gender is a crucial thing. If we think from English perspective, then we have he, she, and it. And in English language, we need to think first, is object alive or not alive? And second, is it a boy or a girl? Let me call it this way. But in Russian language, usage of genders is much more interesting. Please look at the screen. During the course, we'll use various names of genders, but the meaning will be always clear. The thing is that in Russian, we don't try to find gender features of an object that we describe, but we take care mostly of the word and the way it is written. In other words, gender is not gender of a particular object, but gender of a word. Here you can see some examples. Он. Мальчик – это он. Стол – это он. Телефон – это он. Банан – это он. Китай – это он. Она. Девочка – это она. Чашка – это она. Машина – это она. Статуя – это она. Россия – это она. Оно. Вино – это оно. Окно – это оно. Море – это оно. Солнце – это оно. Монако – это оно. Please have a look at grammar table describing how do we define genders of nouns. You see that the trigger that helps us to define gender correctly is the ending. If at the end you see consonant or letter y, gender is masculine. If it is a or ya, gender is feminine. If it is o or ye, gender is neuter. Tricky one is soft sign. most of the times we need to learn gender of words with soft sign at the end. Those rules that you see on the screen are general rules, and of course we do have some exceptions. Please look at the comment section under this video to see some of them. And of course, if we talk about international words that come to Russian language, sometimes it's almost impossible to find any gender features. But if you look at banana, for example, and switch your imagination, how do you think? Is it masculine or is it feminine word? If you really will switch your imagination, you will clearly understand why Russian language banana is called banan, without last a. Ask yourself if banana looks more like a girl or like a boy. Finally, there is a small self-check exercise for you. Please have a look at the screen, choose the best option, and find correct answers in the comments. Привет, меня зовут Владимир. What I just said. Of course, I said, hi, my name is Vladimir. But are we sure that translation from Russian is absolutely correct? Please look at the screen. Меня зовут Владимир. If we'll try to find a word my or word name in this phrase, we'll never find it. In fact, translation that we use is much more translation of meaning, but it doesn't follow direct translation, and that's why it doesn't show the grammar structure. In reality, меня зовут Владимир means they call me Vladimir, but subject they is just hidden. We have lots of sentences like this in Russian, when we don't specify the subject, assuming that we talk about some regular thing, tradition or habit. Word зовут is a form of verb to call, звать, that is synchronized with subject they, even though it is hidden. Now, using this scheme, you can build phrases and name one or several persons. Be aware that word зовут is fixed, because it is synchronized with hidden subject они. And for any person that you are talking about in this sentence, you need to use accusative case form of pronoun, form of an object. Try it now, and you will come to phrases like Его зовут Петр, ее зовут Анна, нас зовут Иван и Мария, их зовут Борис и Глеб. Asking questions becomes easy. What's your name? How do they call you? In a Russian-style sentence. Как тебя зовут? Is your name Vladimir? Do they call you Vladimir? Тебя зовут Vladimir? The only way to use in the speech numbers correctly is to learn them, of course. Now I will simply read you first and second 10 and also major components of big numbers. Please have a look at the screen. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What is important to mention? Digit 1 has gender-specific forms. 1 for masculine words, 1 for feminine, and 1 for neutral. Also, digit 2 has special form for feminine words 2. The way we build second 10 has some logic under it. We kind of put smaller digit on 10, and the word 10 now comes in old-fashioned form цать. Feel free to repeat after me. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. You may see that we make some minor adjustments from initial form that we had in the first 10. For example, in word 4 we have letter E at the end, but in 14 we cut this letter out. When we come to tens, we don't need to put a digit on another one, right? So we don't need to have component na in the word. Also, we are very creative in how do we use this word 10 in the number. Let's read all the tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and finally 100. You see that somewhere we use 10 as 10, somewhere as 20, but in word that represents 40, we use absolutely special word 40 that has its own etymology that we can discuss in the comments under this video if you like. But word 90 is already close to 100, right? So we kind of agree with this logic of using word 100 in the word that represents 90. With hundreds, our creativity in ending is even more flexible. But it also has some logic that we'll cover with you only when we come to genitive plural case in A2 module. So far, I would recommend you just to memorize these numbers. Let's read them. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900. And the very last numbers that we'll cover with you now 1,000, that is 1000, and also million and milliard. Now please look at some use cases where you need to use numbers. Сколько стоит вода? How much does water cost? 100 рублей. Ваш возраст? 32 года. Ваш телефон? 8 916 123 45 67. Твой адрес? Улица Тверская, дом 10, квартира 23. Во сколько самолет? At what time is the plane? Самолет в 12. Once there is a need to say that we have something, in Russian we use construction that starts with preposition u. Let's imagine that we build the sentence I have a telephone. Please look at the screen. I have a telephone. In Russian, this sentence will look like У меня есть телефон. Let's look in details what these words stand for. If we directly translate this sentence into English, we'll come to there is a telephone near me. And this is exactly what it means. Translation with verb to have would be more in literary language. But to get the logic of this phrase, I would recommend to remember direct translation as well. Word есть. What it stands for. This word is just simple tense form of verb to be. In English, we have several various forms, but in Russian, especially in present tense, we have only one universal form. And it doesn't matter what are we talking about a live or not alive object, feminine or masculine, one or many objects. Please look at the screen and you can see standard scheme how to build sentences when you want to say that someone has something. If you remember personal pronouns in accusative case that we've learned earlier, you can see that here we have some small adjustment. Letter N has to stand in the beginning of forms его, ее, and их. So we come to у него, у нее, у них. By the way, this is already so-called genitive case of personal pronouns since we use this special preposition u. Now you can be proud of yourself because now you have touched 3 of 6 Russian cases: nominative, accusative, and genitive. But let's get back to telephone and the sentence. У меня есть телефон. What if we need to ask if someone has telephone or not? Or if we want to ask what exactly that person has? One of the ways to build these questions correctly is to slightly rephrase them first to follow Russian style sentence. Here you can see these logical steps. Let's read them together. What do you have? What is there near you? Что есть? У тебя. Who has telephone? Near whom there is a telephone. У кого есть телефон? Finally, there is a small self-check exercise for you. Please have a look at the screen, choose the best option, and find correct answers in the comments. We all know that the only way to change our world is to do actions, right? In our speech, we do have verbs that represent those actions. Basic verb is to do, which in Russian has meaning делать. Делать. Please look at the screen. This is so-called infinitive form of the verb. If we try to cut this word into pieces, we'll come to root дел, suffix a, and infinitive ending t. But if we put this word in infinitive form in the sentence, it wouldn't really show us who is making the action. So we need to adjust this word somehow and synchronize it with subject. Based on the subject, we'll adjust the ending of this verb and we'll come to the following form of the verb. Я делаю, ты делаешь, он или она делает, мы делаем, вы делаете, они делают. This process of adjusting the verb based on the subject is called conjugation. And so far, we are talking about present tense only. In this table, we've created kind of a formula how to say verb to do correctly depending on the subject. And similar formula we use for many Russian verbs. Please look at the screen and you'll see some of these verbs that we use in A1 course. Знать, to know, слушать, to listen, читать, to read, спрашивать, to ask, отвечать, to answer, рассказывать, to tell, думать, to think, изучать, to study, понимать, to understand. In order to build simple sentences, we usually need first subject, second verb, and the third object. Here are some examples. You see that in some sentences I have changed direct order of words, and I made it on purpose. This is just to remind you that Russian language gives us this possibility to change order of words and keep meaning the same. Finally, there is a small self-check exercise for you. Please have a look at the screen, choose the best option, and find correct answers in the comments. Now we'll talk about possessive pronouns. Possessive pronouns, for example, in English, are my, your, his, her, and others. We use these words to show who is the owner of some object. Of course, we have similar need in Russian, but since we are really big fans of genders in our grammar, we'll have gender-specific and quantity-specific forms of all possessive pronouns. Please look at the screen. My telephone, мой телефон. My pen, моя ручка. My wine, моё вино. My children, мои дети. You see that form of possessive pronoun is dependent on gender and quantity, because telephone is masculine word in Russian language, ручка is feminine, вино is neutral, and дети is plural word. Now let's have a look at bigger table with all the forms based on the owner. Forms when owner is я. Мой, моя, моё, мои. Forms when owner is ты. Твой, твоя, твоё, твои. Forms when owner is мы. Наш, наша, наше, наши. Forms when owner is вы. Ваш, ваша, ваше, ваши. Luckily, forms that tell us about objects that belong to him, her, and them are not gender or quantity specific. So we have forms его, ее, and их. Его, ее, их. One more important thing is in the first column here. Question whose also have several forms and is pronounced like чей, чья, чье, and чьи. Here are some examples. Let's create simple phrases and make my favorite exercise, that is asking questions to every word in that phrase. Это мой дом. This is my house. Что это? What is this? Это дом. This is a house. Чей это дом? Whose house is this? Это мой дом. This is my house. Это ее дети. These are her kids. Кто это? Who is this? Это дети. These are kids. Чьи это дети? Whose kids these are? Это ее дети. These are her kids. Finally, there is a small self-check exercise for you. Please have a look at the screen, choose the best option, and find correct answers in the comments. Another one pair construction is first and then when you talk about consequent actions or objects. Please have a look at the screen. Сначала завтрак, потом обед. First breakfast, then lunch. Сначала люди думают, потом они говорят. First people think, then they talk. Сначала утро, потом день, потом вечер, потом ночь. First morning, then day, then evening, then night. If you want to add a little bit more emotions into the phrase, you can add "a" in the middle to show that there is not a real conflict, but the situation is different in two parts of this sentence. Сначала он мальчик, а потом он папа. It is pretty useful construction that helps you to split the actions or objects in time. One of the ways to make our communication more colorful is to add emotions. When you are already able to say yes and no in Russian, да и нет, the next level is to show how satisfied you are with this да и нет. Please have a look at the screen. Adverb к счастью is built on word счастье, which means happiness, and preposition к. Direct translation is to happiness, which is closer to fortunately in English. And opposite, к сожалению, that is built on word сожаление, which means pity or regret. In both constructions, we use preposition к, saying that something leads us to happy or unhappy state accordingly. This is why we have this special ending ю in both constructions. К счастью, к сожалению. One more phrase that you may use to show that you are not satisfied with something is как жаль, which is translated as what a pity. You may see that root of word жаль and сожаление is the same. But since time changes and life goes on, situation may also change. And to represent it, you may use words already and still that has meaning in Russian уже and еще. Depending on the context, we can translate word еще also as yet. Here are some examples. У вас есть билеты? Do you have tickets? Да, еще есть. Yes, still have. Ты уже дома? Are you already at home? Нет, я еще не дома. No, I am not at home yet. And if we combine both constructions, fortunately, unfortunately, and already and still, we'll come to more emotional communications. Please have a look at the screen. У тебя есть машина? Do you have a car? Да, к счастью, уже есть. Yes, luckily I already have it. This dialect is valid when person had a dream to have a car and now he finally bought it. У вас есть деньги? Do you have money? Нет, к сожалению, еще нет. No, unfortunately not yet. This dialect is valid when person is still waiting for some payment. У вас есть самолет? Do you have an airplane? Нет, к счастью, уже нет. No, luckily I don't have it already. This dialect is valid when person realized how expensive is it to maintain an airplane and finally sold it out. У вас есть билеты? Do you have tickets? Нет, к сожалению, уже нет. No, unfortunately, already not. This dialect is valid when someone wanted to buy tickets, but none is available already.